Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for the opportunity, and thank you all the members who were available to offer what they had in our discussions. So I have a report, like my colleagues have just said, which will be submitted and probably shared to the members, because we are only given 5 minutes and the reports are very long and rich in terms of the points that were raised by the people who participated in our session. So the summary was presented, or the paper was presented by Right Honorable Donatille Mkabalisa, the Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies of Rwanda, and she raised pertinent issues relating to environment in her own country, and she also referred to a number of international experiences. And then after that, we had discussions from the members who attended. So just briefly, her country has passed a number of laws which have been very helpful in protecting the environment, but also in combating climate change. So those laws are enumerated in the paper that she read to us, which is part of your dossier. So I won't go through all those, but she also shared other issues, including the fact that Rwanda, driving from the laws that have already been passed by her country, Rwanda was declared by the UN Habitat as one of the cleanest cities in Africa. So I think they need an applaud of hands for that. And for those of you who have ever been there, I'm sure you are a witness also that they are not just being declared, but we can also emulate that. And just to use that as an example, it emanates from the fact that they passed a law which bans the use of plastic bags. So if it's a plastic bag, it has to be reusable, not just once. So that ban has helped so much in terms of creating a very clean environment. So I've used that as an example, but the rest of the laws are enumerated in her paper, which is part of the papers that you already have. So she also suggested that now our parliament should try to enact laws, and like the chair has been insisting, that we shouldn't just expect goodwill of whoever is in office. So we should pass laws. So she suggested that we should pass laws on protection of the environment, but also we should pass laws that govern land, and we should also pass laws that ban the use of plastics, including plastic bags, and we should pass biodiversity laws, forestry laws, laws governing water resources management, and laws governing the air quality and prevention of air pollution, and laws governing national parks and natural reserves. And then she went on to say we should all ensure that such legislation which will be passed are well implemented in our areas to deter the escalation of adverse effects of climate change and the protection of the environment. And she also suggested the ratification of different multilateral environmental agreements, and the fact that these are key to fight the negative impacts of environmental and climate change. Agreements such as Paris Agreement of 2015 on the matters of substances that affect the ozone layer, and the fact that if we do that, we will all be able to mitigate climate challenges that we are going through now, and also address the same. And she also alluded to the fact that parliaments, through their oversight prerogative, need to keep a watchful eye on both policy and laws implementation in this sector. Parliaments will the mandate also of appropriation, and this should ensure that the funds that are appropriated are efficiently used for the intended purposes by intensifying oversight and evaluation. Now, in the course of the discussions, for the members who attended, I will also summarize that. The first one is that the members suggested that climate change has been remarkably caused by rapid population growth, which has been occasioned by urbanization and industrialization. So we have to work on both urbanization and industrialization to fight climate change. There was also a discussion about using firewood as a major source of energy for domestic use, and the fact that as parliaments we should all work towards ensuring that this doesn't become a major source of energy for domestic use. We should use other means to have that. There was an issue also of influx of refugees, which can be linked to the wars that happen in our respective countries, and the fact that in places which receive the refugees, they are affected in terms of the environment as well. So it is our duty as parliamentarians to work towards peace, which in the end will also minimize the impact of environmental degradation. And another issue that came up was protocols like Kyoto Protocol and agreements like the Paris Agreement of serve as a launch pad for enacting legislation and legal frameworks for management of the environment and the adverse effects of climate change. And the other issue that came up with government interventions, such as issuing executive orders like banning of cutting of trees as a mitigation strategy to ensure environmental protection and deterring in climate change and its adverse effects. And this, it was suggested, could be coupled with tax waivers as a subsidy on fuel and gas for domestic and industrial use. Another issue that was raised was that we have to work towards offering alternative energy sources for domestic consumption as an apt strategy of addressing incidences of deforestation, and also serving as a measure of inculcating a culture of forest conservation. Thus would improve forest cover, which is in one way or another helps in combating climate change. And there was also a suggestion during the discussions that Parliament interventions should include establishing standing committees which will oversee environmental matters in our respective jurisdictions as a way of mitigation strategy as well. Then enacting laws which will also assist this standing committee to follow its implementation. And the other issue that was raised was disaster preparedness, because we all know the negative impacts of climate change are affecting us every day, and so it's important to be prepared in the event the disaster strikes. And the other issue that was raised was raising the awareness and ensuring compliance among the affected population is key to effecting change. And here it was mentioned that parliamentarians have held the mantle by acting exemplary to lead the drive of tree planting. And here, if we are very good at convincing the voters to vote for us, we should be able to convince them to also plant trees. The other issue that was raised was government and its line sectors overseeing economic activities, public works to ensure that infrastructures in place are resilient, overseeing large projects, especially on coal and gas, is a sure strategy. The other issue that was raised was sharing the vision of using resources in a sustainable manner so that it helps us to deal with the diverse effects of climate change. There was also raised an issue relating to allocation of funds to provide mitigation measures to locations which are vulnerable to natural disasters. And there was an issue which was raised that we should all aim at going for non-carbon emission by 2050. The other issue that was raised was that there is need to pass laws once again that would ban cutting of trees at least by 50%. So that should be going with the planting of trees that I've already mentioned. The other issue was that there was a need to ban planting anything that causes soil erosion or soil degradation. And lastly, the discussion also dwelt on the issues of the fact that the parliaments need to ensure that governments implement and abide by their international commitments which they undertake. And that includes the fact that they do make commitments at the COP meetings, and so whatever commitment they make when we have committees in our respective parliament, they should be following that up. And they also make commitments through the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and that should be able to lead us how parliaments can make our governments more responsible when it comes to protecting the environment, but also curbing the negative effects of climate change. Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
ST Bongo, nyumbani kwanza.